organisers for inviting myself and Simon to speak tonight. My name is Frank Hughes. I'm a director of Palestine Solidarity, a registered charity. I was on the flotilla, the global salute flotilla to Gaza. I went to Barcelona on the 25th of August and I returned on the 7th of October. So I was away for 42 days in total. But I just want to give people a wee bit of background before I talk about the flotilla itself. You see, for some people, what's happened in Palestine started on the 7th of October. And I know for a lot of people in this room, it started well before that. And for me, it started in 2008, 2009 with Operation Slade. For whoever remembers that, 345 children murdered in Gaza by the Israeli baby killers over Christmas and New Year. Then on the 31st of May 2010, there was a flotilla that left Turkey, which included the ship, the Mavi Marmara. That ship was stopped in international waters. 10 people on that boat were murdered by the IOF Zionist militias and their evil marine brigades. One of those people was called Furkan Togan. He was a Turkish-American national. He was a young man training to be a doctor. His dream was to cure blindness in Africa. He wanted to go there as a doctor and save people's eyesight. He was shot and murdered on that boat on the 31st of May 2010. And 6 months later, I was on a land convoy with George Galloway and delivered a 13-seater wheelchair accessible minibus to Al out of hospital. But on our way there, we stopped off in Turkey and I spoke at that young man's grave. I said, a martyr has fallen, he has dropped a flame, who will pick it up? I left it for about 30 seconds and then he said, I would. And 15 years later, I'm on a boat, I'm on a flotilla, I'm following in their footsteps, I'm trying to make my way to Gaza. So these acts of humanitarian solidarity, from the land convoys to the flotillas, the people in this room who are doing BDS, the people in this room who donate money towards Palestine Aid and other charities for the Communist Party, I believe, of Palestine. Everyone's playing a part. So the flotilla, it left Barcelona on the 31st of August. We sailed out into some bad weather and some of the boats actually broke down within the first 14 hours from leaving port. But if you consider that they had 51 boats and they bought these boats over a period of something like 6 to 10 weeks prior to their departure. So I was on the SS Alma that had 4 crew and 24 participants. Ours was called the Mothership. We had 50,000 litres of diesel on the boat, and every couple of days we refueled all the smaller sailing vessels that accompanied us. So there were 6 or 7 big boats and about 44 small sailing yachts that had between 4 and 9 passengers, participants on the boat. When we got to City Bussaid in Tunis, we were told before we left Barcelona that it would probably take 3 weeks to do the whole sailing to Gaza and or interception, going to the jails and then being deported and being sent back home. And we were told that there would be a yellow zone, an orange zone and a red zone, and the closer you got to Gaza, the more chance that there would be violence visited upon the people on the flotilla. But we only got as far as Tunisia, we only got as far as City Bussaid, and the first night that we were at anchor in the harbour, in the marina, the family boat was firebombed. So a drone came along, hovered above the boat, dropped a flammable ignited fluid and set fire in the boat, right? So I was on the Alma and we were literally from where I'm standing to the end of the other bar, we could see the other boat go on fire. Our captain, one of the crews, went over, helped put out the fire. 6 o'clock in the morning, we saw the guys in the border suits, the forensic analysts on the boat. 4 hours later, they said a courtesy discarded cigarette set fire to some of the life jackets, and that's why there was a fire on the boat. Even though the CCTV showed this flammable firebomb being dropped from a height onto the deck. Our boat, the Alma, was attacked the second night. So they attacked 2 boats in 2 nights, and then we had a military, naval, and anti-drone guard for the rest of the time that we were in Tunisia. When we were out in the international waters, over a period of 3.5 hours, they attacked 11 of the boats. So our boat, we had what was called a poop deck at the back. We could all stand out and watch what was happening. We could see all the boats in like a semicircle around where we were. We watched the drones come in like Second World War dive bombers. They came down at speed. They hovered above the targeted vessel. They had flashbang explosive grenades, and they deployed them from a rope. So you had the drone, then the rope, then they dropped the grenade onto the boats. Now, I was watching this, and I thought, if they want to kill people, we're going to kill people. And if they're not killing people, well then maybe we don't have to be that frightened about what was happening. So what they were doing was they were trying to damage the mainsails on these boats. So they firebombed the 2 big boats in Tunisia, and they bombed these other 10 boats. We could see the flash, then you could hear the bang, and this lasted for about 3.5 hours. And one of the boats suffered from a chemical gas attack. We think it was hydrogen sulfate or hydrogen sulfide that they dropped onto the boat. So for people who remember CR gas, CS gas back in the day, it's an asphyxiant that could kill people. So I was on the Alma for 28 days. The family boat that had Tiago, Aviva, and the other people that were involved in the steering committee, that boat broke down. Tiago came on the our boat, and he says, we need 7 people to volunteer to leave this boat, to go into other ships to continue the mission. It wasn't my boat. The boat belonged to a Global Salute flotilla. I volunteered to leave to make way for the people on the committee. I left the boat. I was on my new boat, the Thai Jetty, about 5 minutes when I was told, I don't know where to put you on this boat. We're broken down. We're going in the creek for repairs. We've got 48 hours to effect the repairs to get back out and join the flotilla for going to Gaza with a possible intervention. I then spent 8 days in Crete waiting for the boat to be repaired. Everybody else who was on that boat that I'd been on, all intercepted, all taken to jail, all deported, and then there was a second flotilla with the 1,000 Madeleines and also the Conscience, and we still thought we would have time to join that second flotilla on our boat. In the end, I stayed to the very last minute when they sent me a message saying, this boat's going to be in the next flotilla, stand down, go home. So even though I wasn't intercepted, I want to tell you 2 stories. There was a 71-year-old captain from Cork, Paddy. He's type 1 diabetic. They took his insulin off him when he was taken into the prison. They refused to give him his medicine, and people were concerned that he would go into a diabetic coma and die. So the people in his cell demanded that a doctor be summoned and that this man be given his medicine. And the guards, according to Tag Hickey, who was on the George Galloway show, he said the guards looked him in the eyes and said, we do not have doctors for animals. Now that's what they said about a 71-year-old Irishman from Cork with the potential of going into a diabetic coma. We have white privilege, we are Europeans, we have European passports, and they were telling us that they didn't have doctors for animals. I'm saying that purely because we have seen what they do to Palestinian prisoners. We've heard of the rapes, we've seen the torture, we've seen the bodies that have been returned mutilated, with their bodies stolen, their eyes gouged out, the inhuman, barbaric way that Palestinians are treated, because Israel is a fascist, racist state. The Palestinians are not only fighting for national liberation, they're also at the forefront of the fight of fascism in the world today. So that's what we need to remember, and it's not just about Palestine, it's about Sudan, it's about Venezuela, it's about the Donbass. I've been to the Donbass, I understand people have different views on this. I went to support the people of Donbass against the fascist coup from 2014 in Kiev, inspired by MI6 and the CIA. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I just want to say one thing about Palestine Aid. I'm a director, Dr. Saib Shaf's our patron. We're all unpaid volunteers. Everyone in Gaza that works with us, unpaid volunteers. Between March 2024 and September 2025, we sourced 267,000 meals on the ground in Gaza for 17,000 displaced people to feed them for 1 week. Every penny we get goes to Gaza. And I know there are other charities out there, and by the time you pay for the CEO, you pay for the offices, you pay for the fundraisers, the first £1 million that's raised goes just to pay for the financial structures that are involved. So thank you everybody, and keep fighting.
Saib Shaf and I have known one another for a very long time. He's a man from Palestine who has been involved in Palestinian Solidarity for as long as I've known him. I started solidarity work, I think, in around 1973. I know this is an issue now that this is an issue that has now come to prominence, but it's an issue which has existed for a very long time. It goes back to a man called Herzl, who came up with this great idea of a Jewish state. But the Jewish state was going to be in Palestine, a state that had people. And the myth that the Israelis sold was, this was a state without a people, for a people without a state, which was a complete lie. And the Balfour Declaration, which the British supported in 1917, continued that lie. And throughout the 20th century, attack after attack took place on the Palestinians who inhabited that territory. They were driven out, 80% of them driven out, at one stage, in a pogrom against the Palestinian people. And that has continued ever since. There has been a war, a vicious, racist war against the Palestinians by the Israeli state since the inception of that state. And for all the talk about a people that have suffered, and they have, the Jewish people have suffered, but this is not the Jewish people, this is the Israeli state. The Jewish people suffered the Holocaust. But the Holocaust is used by the Zionists as a shield to defend them from the legitimate criticism of the world for their murderous campaign against the Palestinians. Our party has been involved for a very long time in support of the Palestinian struggle. We have had Palestinian speakers from across the world, and we have sent our solidarity back to those people. It's sad that we have had to witness what we've witnessed, and that people still, including people in this society, still deny the barbarity and murder that goes on in the state of Israel. A state which holds itself up beyond criticism. A state which says it's the only democracy in the Middle East. A state which discriminates against its own citizens if you happen to be a Palestinian, or indeed if you happen to be a woman, or if you happen to be black. This is a deeply racist, fascistic state, as Farah has said. And they have absolutely no conscience. This is a murderous regime, a murderous Zionist regime, and they deserve the criticism of the entire world. I want to call now upon my own long-term comrade, Dr. Saib Shaf, and I want you to give him a hearty welcome, please.
I know dates sometimes differ and contexts differ. For Efrat was from 2008, what the witness the wars and that, but for me, started as Jerry said, Herzl, and then from the Balfour Declaration 2017. Those, the one who issued the Balfour Declaration, they're the one who brought in Palestine, when the British occupied Palestine in 1917, the black and tans from Ireland. Once the English thought they are sorting the Irish question in 1922 by creating the Free State in Ireland, then they shifted their own black and tans who tortured the Irish people, who you know very well what they did to our own people in Palestine. The black and tan, free Palestine people. The black and tan practice in Palestine what they perfected in Ireland, treating the people as not even human, even less than animals at some stages, burning villages with people, ransacking villages from Cork and other areas. The same they repeated in Palestine. We are facing people which the British engineered the techniques in Ireland, the planters, bringing people from different areas and taking the best of land and push the indigenous Irish people out of it to the bogs, to the mountains, and put the planters in these areas. The same they brought the Zionists from across Europe and put them in Palestine. Settlers, when you manufacture genocide, what do? What the British practiced in Ireland as well during the famine and during a lot of suffering inflicted on the Irish people. They bring a people and put people on top of a people. When you bring another people, foreign people, under any cover, and you put them on top of the indigenous people of their country, you're manufacturing genocide, continuous genocide. The planters in Ireland and here, they aligned themselves very well with the British Empire, so they can be protected by the British Empire against the rebellions of the indigenous Irish people. The same thing the Zionists did in Palestine. They got very close to the British and executed what the British did, and then after that, when the British handed the mandate of Palestine to the United States of America, the Americans guaranteed to use this new entity in there to secure the interests of imperialism, of the ugly fascist capitalist gains of controlling the region. And that's creating this monstrous entity called Israel and Palestine. Under the British, they managed to cleanse from Palestine over 850,000 inhabitants out of a country at the time was around 1,100,000 Palestinian peoples in it. And all the Jewish population of Palestine, at that time it was starting the cleansing in Palestine, you can check it on the any website, around 60,000 or 55,000. And they managed, the Americans, using the United Nations in 1947 to issue a declaration about partitioning Palestine. Given those amount of people, which is very few, the minority in the 55% of Palestine, to achieve that, they weren't even accepting that. They waged a war on the disarmed, occupied, controlled Palestinian people, being waged war after war against them by the British occupation. I know I'm talking in history, but in 1936, we have the Palestinian revolt against the British occupation. The Palestinian resistance managed to liberate most of the cities of Palestine from the British occupation at the time. One of them, which is today they call it Tel Aviv, used to be called Jaffa, Akka, other cities, which is Eka. A lot of cities and villages been liberated. The British asked the Arabic regimes around Palestine to interfere with the Palestinian leadership of the resistance and tell them the British promised to pull out of Palestine and to stop the Jewish immigration to Palestine if the Palestinian armed struggle stops. In 1936, these regimes, you'll have the Saudis, the Jordanian, the Iraqi, and Yemen at the time, all of them under a British occupation. They came and told the Palestinians the British Empire promised 1, 2, 3, and the Palestinians bought it. They stopped the resistance. Once the Palestinians were talking to the English told them, go take your promise from who promised you that? The British Empire promised nothing. And they brought more soldiers and waged a new war in the Palestinian from 1936, continued till 1947, devastating that small, tiny population of Palestine with over 150,000 Palestinian soldiers and a black and tans. We continued this struggle in Palestine. We never surrendered. This is the problem for empire and the problem for the Western imperialists. The Palestinians realized from that day they are not just facing a Zionist movement, nationalist movement who want to occupy and turn Palestine to their homeland. We discovered from early 50s we are facing the empires, the British, the French at the time, and the Americans. The British and the French in 1956 waged their war at the Egyptians and occupied Gaza, helping the Zionists, killing so many from the Palestinians in Gaza at the time. Even at the time, some of my family fell down to that genocide they committed in 1956. They call it massacre. They tried to commit another genocide in 1956. The Egyptian resistance, the Palestinian resistance managed to defeat the English and the French, and the Palestinians managed to defeat the Israelis out of Gaza. Continued the struggle. The Palestinian resistance continued the struggle in the 70s with amazing formation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. From the PFLP to the DFLP to Fatah to all the groups joined the PLO, which is Marxist-Leninist or nationalist at the time. And they managed to stand against imperialism, but imperialism came with a massive force in 1982 to destroy Beirut and to destroy the strongholds place of the PLO at the time. To protect Lebanon, the PLO left, agreed to leave. What the Americans do, who signed the agreement with the Palestinians who left Lebanon, 4 days after the Palestinian freedom fighters left, they commit the massacre of Sabra and Shatila. This is what the American promised and the international community, to protect the Palestinian people. They didn't. 4 days took them to commit a massacre in them. So the struggle in Palestine, we knew all along, imperialism is facing us under Zionism, under Arab reactionary regimes in there waged their own small attacks on us, and we stood the ground. We knew from that, as I said, early 50s, we are facing the empire. And we stood strong and decided we're going to continue this struggle. The Zionist entity, who is the face of the American interest in taking over the Arab world and the Middle East. The Americans look at us as we are a hub of resources in there, and we are the trade routes of the world, the heart of the world. The American empire cannot be strong, as they say, without controlling that region. This is why, and after the 7th of October, Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, opened the arsenal of all Western countries from Germany, Britain, France, and the United States of America to the Zionist entity. And they start attacking us. American special forces were fighting on the ground in Gaza. Since they discovered under 2,000 Palestinian freedom fighters shook that Zionist entity and told the whole world this entity and imperialism can be defeated, and the Palestinian people achieved that defeat. But suddenly we have the monsters of imperialism attacking us. In the skies of Gaza till today, you find the British RAF roaming our skies. Undercover, they are helping locating prisoners or hostages, while they're giving coordinates to the Zionists to blow up the families in Palestine. What the Zionist entity did, or the Israelis did in Gaza, they didn't achieve any of their goals of kicking the Palestinian people out of Gaza and cleanse Gaza out of own, ethnically cleansing it out of the Palestinian people. They didn't achieve freeing by force their prisoners. They didn't achieve securing their borders from the Palestinian future attack, the Palestinian resistance, because the Palestinians know this is their land, not their borders for the Zionist entity. So they, with the Americans, brought this ceasefire, a trick of ceasefire on the Palestinians. They made the whole international community think this is now the genocide will be stopped. This is a peace, as Trump was telling the people, a 3,000 years long war between the Zionists and the Israelis. This is wrong. The Israelis and the Zionist entity has been in Palestine just from 1948. Trump, he thinks he is a colossal epic leader who is once upon time happened in history. He gives himself a history of 3,000 years of lies. And we as Palestinian people today, we stood our ground. But the Americans, the British, and the Zionist entity, what they did, they destroyed nearly every single house in Gaza, every hospital, every school, killed over 200,000 Palestinians, injured more than 250 Palestinians, and a lot maimed, and a lot been missing under the rubble of the homes in Gaza. So the international community discovered, the people in here, not the states, went to the street, and they discovered the ugly genocide not by a coincidence. They discovered it because the Zionists, the soldiers, they were filming it live, and they were bragging about it, and they were telling everybody, look how we enjoy our hobbies of killing babies and sniping children and blowing hospitals and destroying cities and destroying schools and torturing people, send them from A to B, telling them this will be safe zone and that will be an active area of operation, while blowing them up anywhere they move. As the Flash said, they were torturing the prisoners, they were raping the prisoners, and who's the prisoners? Anybody they put their hands on in Gaza, they arrested them. We have over 25,000 missing prisoners or forced disappeared, and nobody talks about it. Still, the people in Gaza stood their ground, and with their will, they proved they have a will of steel as a people, refuse to disappear, refuse to obey empire, stood the ground against empire and say, we are standing this ground and will continue the fight from now till we defeat Zionism and kick imperialism from our own cities and our towns and our villages. And they do that by your support. The people around the world went to the streets and the cities, and that's what is scared by Trump and the other Western elites who rushed to Sharm el-Sheikh and said in Egypt, we have to put an end to this genocide. Not because they're worried about the Palestinians, because they are worried about their own thrones, their own people discovered they are ugly fascist bastards who are involved in destroying the Palestinian people. Who will do what they did to the Palestinians, to their own people? As my comrade Fras said, and I said earlier on in Newcastle, tyranny, injustice against the people of Palestine being carried the same in Sudan by the same hands. The one who is wreaking havoc and genocide in Sudan today, there are the Zionists and their own mercenaries in there. They're giving it a Sudanese face, but it's a Zionist, Mossad and CIA involved in that. The ones who are attacking Venezuela as well, they are the same forces, dark forces, who want to loot the world and to enslave the people. But Gaza exposed all, and Gaza leading the way now and insisting to liberate their land from these thugs. Free, free Palestine. Thank you very much.
Palestine. Just in relation to the solidarity that's going on, there is one thing which I want to say. There's a long-term member and associate and comrade of this party who's here tonight, and he informed me that his son, Matthew McGovern, is currently working in a refugee camp in Palestine, in the West Bank, and he's been there for 6 months. So it goes to show that there are people working on the ground as well. We're doing our best here, but there are people like Matthew McGovern who are also working on the ground to help the Palestinian people. Despite the great difficulties, it's not an easy place to work. So we want to pass on our best wishes to him as well.
were just little boys playing football on the sand. Beneath the blazing sun of Stenian land, Benjamin set the reaper, blood on his hands. He killed those boys in living blood on the sand. Now tell me thou Zionist, is your mother bride? Watch you in the middles, that hypocrite. They're calling you a hero, or you're on the cause. You're a fucking murderer. Put the land at yours. Put the land at yours. Put the land at yours. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Zechariah, Ishmael, Muhammad, family sort apart. Oh, now a broken heart, but they stay strong. The struggle goes on. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Fuck you, Zionist. Make your mother pray. March you with your medals. And better pray. They're calling you a hero. Or you're on the cause. You're a fucking murderer. On the land on yours. On the land on yours. On the land on yours. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Fuck you, Zionist. Is your mother pray? March me the medals. Then I give for pray. They're calling